Hey, everybody. Welcome to Age of Quarantine, episode 99. That's right. We've done 99 episodes of this show, and it's been quite a bit of fun. A little bit harrowing, a little bit difficult, but fun and happy as well. How's everybody doing? Tonight, my guest is going to be the creator, founder, and main host of Age of Quarantine, Mr. Chris Enriquez. Probably one of the best drummers I've ever played with, if not the best, and a general good dude. Uh, he talks too much, but I'm going to let him go nuts for an hour and talk too much, as usual. I'd like to call this episode, Hi, My Name is Chris. And before he plugs in, I'll tell you why, because when we were on tour at Primitive Weapons, he would constantly say to everyone, Hi, my name is Chris. Hi, my name is Chris. You ready? It's going to happen in a couple of seconds. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Come on, man. What's up?
Keep talking. I don't know.
Hi, my name is Chris. So Chris would walk in a venue, and he would consider it being nice, which it was, because me and Eric are generally pretty like head down, not talking to anybody style. And Chris is, hey, everybody. Hey, my name's Chris. Hey, my name's Chris. Hey, my name's Chris. Like, every person he was saying hi to was a new advertiser for Revolver or something. It's or maybe potential. But yeah, it's honor to have the founder and president of Age of Quarantine, and a guy who allowed me to interview my friends while I couldn't see anybody and won't be able to see anybody for a long time. What's up, dude?
How are you, Artie? Is that a turtleneck that you're wearing?
What? No, it's my mask.
Oh,
I just never take.
Thinking you're wearing a turtleneck.
Yeah, I never take it off because I always leave the house without it, and so this is a good way of not forgetting it.
I'm honored that this is the most professional background and internet that you've ever had on the Age of Quarantine.
I'm at my wife's store. Yeah.
Look fantastic over there. No, I'm serious. You look great. Everything looks great. It sounds great. It looks so professional. I love it.
Well, I had my shit together for a change, That means the interview is going to suck, though. So,
hey, man.
It'd be terrible.
Two friends.
Congratulations on episode 99, featuring Chris Enriquez. How? I mean, I want to before we go into your history. Let's talk a little bit about Age of Quarantine and how how it came about and how you jumped into it, honestly head first, and it just kind of snowballed and it's super cool. And give me a little bit of a background on what you were thinking when this shit went down.
Well, I got scared. What's funny is most people were scared for their health, and I was scared that I wouldn't have anything to do. I'm sure that also has entered many people's minds. As you mentioned, I like talking to people.
Well, you're also very sober, so you didn't have any chemicals to fill your time with, so it makes sense.
Yes, I noticed Rebecca Shepherd joined. Hi, Rebecca. Your store looks very nice in the background. Yeah, I wouldn't say I have crazy mental health issues or depression. I'm really good at entertaining myself, but I do like talking to people and hanging out and socializing. And when all the venues and bars closed down, I freaked out a little bit and I was like, shit, I gotta do something. And I like entertaining people, so I figured I could knock two birds with one stone, talk to people and entertain people at the same time while entertaining myself. And but this is before you guys let me do it on St. Vitus, so I was doing it on my personal. You were one of my first guests.
That's true. I felt like I was hey man, here's the crash dummy, in the fucking front. We're gonna test the seatbelt style. That's what, that's how I felt. But
It was cool.
I
It's
mean,
always
there
fun
was
to talk about.
no, there was no.
Our entire conversation was about the Long Island hardcore scene. So, you know, it was like, I always enjoy talking about that. And so whatever, it's all good.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I mean, I just I had no professional goal of doing anything besides having something to do every night after work on my Instagram. And then some of the first few guests were like people in bands that went beyond our local scene, and it only made sense to hit you guys up, and you were into it, and you guys have 40,000 followers. So that was really the idea and how it came together, you know. And then people wrote about it, fucking Billboard and metal sites, and now Revolver is helping out. So
And now you're fucking famous, Chris. You're famous, Chris. You're finally famous. Holy shit.
Hey, let's talk about how episode 100 is Vinny Stigma. That's pretty cool.
That is fucking hysterical. Oh my God.
And that's not on purpose. That's not on purpose. That was, I didn't know that it was episode 100 until a couple hours ago.
All right. Well, let's not get caught up on it, because I could tell 8,000 Vinny Stigma fucking stories, but he's a wonderfully sweet guy. He had his 50th or 60th birthday party, I think, at Vitus, which was super fun.
I think he was older. Oh, maybe you're right. He's 60.
Yeah, no, they said it was. I think they said it was his 50th, but it was actually his 60th. But
right.
Sorry, I don't mean to call you out there, man. But I love Agnostic Front. I saw them play in the '80s and later on and whatnot, and they played that night. It was super cool, and it's in the documentary, which is what Godfathers of Hardcore, right? We watched it. We watched it together on tour in a hotel room.
Yeah, and we had I had Roger on the show a week or two ago. It was fucking awesome.
I can't keep up with you, dude. You're too busy for me. It's you know.
I'll tell you one thing quick about that, and I don't want to get too caught up, but one of the best things Roger told me was how I wanted to know how you find a squat. Like, how would you even find a squat and get one? And he just told a crazy story. We're from Long Island, so we've never grew up looking for a squat. And it was just interesting to hear, you know, like, imagine us walking around looking for a building to crash in.
We probably could have found one. Honestly, we probably could have found one pretty easily. But you know what I mean? Like, we could have found some construction site or some fucking shitty house and just be like, all right, whatever. Nick, nobody lives here. They sold the house, you know? I mean, I'm sure now it's going to be like, you know, everybody's running from New York in general. All right, so let's get into you. I want to talk to you about you before we get caught up in just bullshitting about our stupid fucking memories and stuff. So, On the Mind of Princess is not your first band.
No.
What is your first band? So you grew up on Long Island. Let's start there.
Right.
North Shore,
Yes.
Manhasset, right?
Right.
Right. I'm from the South Shore, so for context, it's like this, and he's here and I'm here. You guys can do North and South. And it's about the same place, but say directly down. So how did you get into playing drums? What was your influence? How did it all happen?
Well, so my sister is 8 years older than me, and she was listening to a lot of new wave music in the 80s, and MTV was playing everything from hair metal to new wave to everything. So I was exposed to that MTV generation, and for some reason, when I saw Motley Crue videos and Guns N' Roses videos, the one thing that made sense to me was it was weird. I don't know if you could do that with any other instrument, but when I saw Tommy Lee or Steve Adler play it,
you knew exactly what song I was playing too, right? Totally.
Right. Well, it just made sense. I'm like, he's hitting the hi-hat, he's hitting the snare drum, and I hear the bass. It just made sense. So that's why I started playing drums, was because I saw metal videos on MTV. I think this is the truth, actually. The first song I ever learned how to play, I think, was "We Didn't Start the Fire" by Billy Joel, which is incredibly Long Island.
Incredibly.
I actually, I'm not just trying to claim Long Island. I did grow up on a lot of Billy Joel that was playing in the house a lot. And I met a kid in grade school that that learned how to play guitar watching MTV, and he learned how to play "Sweet Child of Mine." And for some reason, I don't know why, it's a terrible song. We covered "We Didn't Start the Fire," and so that was the.
It's not a terrible song. It's just kind of like in the Billy Joel catalog. I'll say that's not, you know, that's like what's that? "I'm Still Standing" by Elton John. I'm still standing. You know, it's like one of those songs you just kind of like, okay, dude, it's the 80s. I get it. Your 70s material was much better. But go ahead.
No, honestly, 80s metal was 150% the thing for me. That's what I played along to. I would say Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Metallica would be the top three like things that I was listening to.
What's your thoughts on Lars Ulrich? What's your thoughts on Lars Ulrich? Give it to me straight.
My thoughts on Lars Ulrich in general, I think that on a recording and as a arranger, that he's incredibly vital to the Metallica sound. And if it wasn't for him and his producing and arranging skills, we wouldn't have the Metallica that we know today. I think that he just unfortunately relies on studio editing. Even back then, you know, obviously you can do takes. I'm sure he obviously didn't have Pro Tools, but I think he just suffers from relying on studio tricks. Because when he plays live, it's just not the same.
Terrible. Yeah. Well, he's a great songwriting drummer, shall we say?
Yeah. I have to be careful because even though I'm sure Steve Martin isn't watching right now, I wouldn't want him to see.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll defend you. I said it. It's okay. I love fucking Metallica, so you know, like the whatever. So who did you like you met a couple of dudes you started playing in high school, like band cover shit, and like did that go anywhere? Like, were you already going to hardcore shows? Like, what was your first introduction to sort of underground music that you can remember?
So when I started my first band, I didn't know anything about the hardcore scene yet. And that same band, which is Fall with Grace, who I think might definitely played with Error Type 11 at some point.
You did. Yeah, for sure.
We were an all-Asian alternative rock band in the 90s, but with my buddy Conrad Mata watching. But yeah, we started out covering. We played like local fairs and pep rallies and talent shows, and at those shows we were kind of the oddballs because we grew up in Manhasset, which is a really big yuppie town. So everyone listened to Grateful Dead and Fish, and later on Dave Matthews Band, and we were into initially Guns N' Roses was like the biggest influence. That was the biggest deal for all of us. So we covered mostly Guns N' Roses songs. We did Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth at our first show, and I remember we did maybe Primus, but that would be like kind of the vibe of what was going on. And that band, Fall with Grace, kept going, and we eventually wrote music. And around 1995, I discovered hardcore. 1994, maybe. My sister was working at the Limelight in the early 90s. I want to say she was working there like around 90, 91. And she would hang out with a lot of skater dudes that she would bring back home from the city. And I would steal their mixtapes. And I would see stuff like the Cramps and the Misfits and Dead Kennedys. And so from there, I got into skateboarding, and I saw Gleam in the Cube, but all the records that I saw on the walls, like Bad Brains and shit. When Nirvana hit, that was when I really kind of dove in. This is before I ever saw a hardcore show. So because of all that stuff, I started buying cassette tapes at like Tower Records. I remember it was like Fugazi Repeater, the Cramps, Bad Music for Bad People, and maybe Misfits Legacy of Brutality, and Bad Brains Live.
Wow.
So that was how I found out about punk and hardcore and Headbangers Ball.
That's like a fucking education of like, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, so, it was everything. Cause like you and I have a lot in common because I grew up listening to like mainstream rock, and then I discovered punk and hardcore. And then later on when I started going to shows, that I figured out about, Discord Records and all that interesting stuff,
So let's get to On the Mind of Princes. Where does this happen? This is after Fall of
So,
Grace, right?
yeah, so Fall with Grace, you know, at this point, I'm going to hardcore shows in Long Island. I'm seeing your band, you know, and discovering Sound Majority and Mind Over Matter, and Trip Face and that whole scene. And so my band Fall with Grace was starting to play with those bands. We played with Inside a lot, and we played with Movie Life a lot. This is in '97, and we also
Okay, so we're moving into fucking straight up emo at
yeah,
this
this
point.
is yeah, because after I got into hardcore, I started getting into like Sunday Real Estate, which is a good kind of connection to On the Might of Princes. But I started getting into Sunday Real Estate and all that Midwest stuff, Braid, Promise Ring. So
Were you like as a drummer though, were you, because like taking from the things that you started with, like were you now like Brendan Canty and William Goldsmith and like you were like, because those guys are some of the greats of that
yeah,
that era, and of course your hero Dave Grohl. I mean,
right.
you know, were these the things where like how hard were you studying these ideas and playing this stuff, or were you just like, you're a really creative drummer, you're a really original drummer.
Yeah.
Were you playing, were you trying to steal shit from them
Yes.
or trying to figure shit
I
out?
learned. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I learned how to play technical very early on, which is strange. I learned listening to like Primus and and Tommy Lee and of course I did listen to a lot of classic rock. I can't, you know, skip that. I mean, I listened to a lot of Zeppelin and Sabbath. So like I kind of figured out, and I got to bring up thrash metal because I'm totally skipping that. I learned how to play double bass listening to Megadeth and Metallica and Slayer and Anthrax and figured all that out, and China Cymbal. But by the time I got into my mid to late teens, I was more influenced by songwriting and powerful, like a feeling, powerful drumming. William Goldsmith from Sunday Real Estate and Dave Grohl played very powerful, and there was a lot of feeling in that for me. So that was more attractive to me. I mean, you have to figure also, like, my sister was playing a lot of Pixies in the house and The Cure and shit like that. So I was understanding songwriting at the same time as all this stuff. You know, I could pick out a verse and a chorus and a verse. I wasn't only a drummer.
Right. So,
And
then that sort of leads to on the Might of Princes
right.
in its own way with all those influences kind of thrown in. Did you write any music for On the Might of Princes, or were you just the drummer and sort of arranger helper? Did you guys all did everything together?
Yeah, I mean, they were a band with a full length before I joined. They had a different drummer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and they were playing some pretty cool shows. I found out about them because they played a show with Promise Ring and American Football at NYU in like 1997 or something like that. And I thought that it was crazy that a band from Long Island, like that I had never heard of, had a full length that they put out themselves and played with like these national bands. So they weren't they weren't part of that scene that you were in at the time, I guess. You know?
Right. Well, yeah, it
So
just might have been a connection thing, you know, like, because it's not like any of us were closed to anything, you know. But so you join, and did the deal with Rev happen relatively quickly, or was that like,
so
was that a couple of years?
2 years after
2 years.
2 years after I had joined the band. I had joined the band in 1999, and we went on my first tour of the U.S. Put out a full length on Creep Records, which was like a Creep Studios. They did a lot of stuff with like Kelly Rydell's, recorded all the records there. A bunch of bands, like mostly punk bands, crust bands, Casualties. So we recorded there, went on tour, and it was right at that time that Thursday and Taking Back Sunday and Brand New and all these bands were happening, and that's when the record label started coming around. But to answer your question, we were a collaborative. I didn't write guitar parts or anything, but I helped arrange. You know.
Do you wanna talk a little bit about like because me and you have talked quite a bit on a personal level about like the shit that went down with like say the movie Life or you know, like just sort of like all those bands blowing up around you and like how difficult that was for you guys to sort of see that happen? I mean, was that
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. I'm totally cool with that, and especially because we're making a documentary about the band. You know, when I was playing in On the Might of Princes, and the band again started in 1997, there was not, and you know this, there was not a mainstream outlet for anything that we were doing, and I don't think that anybody was trying to do that. I think that we all would have loved to have taken it as far as we could have, and we were obviously open to opportunities, but we weren't trying to really pursue anything
right?
particular. You know what I
I
mean?
don't think I don't
No
think
one was
anybody
ever. No,
I don't think anybody was. I think it was just kind of like it's interesting. I'm listening to the audio book of Sam McPheeters from Born Against
oh yeah,
autobiography.
yeah,
It's called Mutations, and it's so interesting the way that he talks about like this feeling you would have on tour. Sometimes you're going like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, why am I here? Especially someone like you, who like you know had parents who were like Chris. They encouraged you, but like Chris, I'm sure they told you like you gotta you know you gotta get a degree, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and it's
absolutely.
like it's so interesting to sort of have that thing in your head. Like the singer of Born Against is standing there going in the Midwest playing in some basement going, what the fuck am I doing here? And like in my brain, I was like, the singer of Born Against, that dude just wants to change the world. But he realized that he can't change the fucking world playing in a Kinko's in San Diego. You know what I mean? Like it's just at some point the reality of that kind of hits. But I like with Take 'Em Back Sunday, and I don't know about Brand New. I don't know them very well. Like obviously I know TBS really well, and a bunch of the other bands that made it from Long Island, Glassjaw. You know, like I don't think that those guys, any of those guys were sort of looking for any sort of stardom. It just kind of came to us in a weird way, and it's a lot of it had to do with Glassjaw breaking out, and then TBS breaking out, and like, you know, and it was a lot of touring and bullshit and stuff that, you know, like,
Yeah, we didn't even know why we were touring. We just wanted to play shows
yeah,
for people, but we didn't. We weren't like, let's try to figure out how to get big. I mean, you know, what I'll say about On the Might of Princes is that we had a very interesting band. Like, I don't want to kind of ramble too much, but like, Jason was not like some rich kid from Long Island. He passed away. So I would love to tell his story a little bit, but he was born in a household that was not rich at all. I mean, he was poor. He was
well,
abused.
however money you have doesn't really matter. What, you know, like,
Right. My point is like we kind of were just like, right. He wrote songs about his life, and he had a frustrating life.
right,
It's a true
okay,
that's my point. He wasn't singing about ex-girlfriends and being upset about some girl in school. I mean, like, this guy had a really fucking hard life. Lived in his car for a while. Like, this was a real tortured person. And so that music that we made really reflected that. You know, I'm very proud that our music is a reflection of the frustration that we all sort of kind of had, you know, and it was being expressed in such a way that people liked it. So, you know, it's just funny when like the Screamo thing became such a commodity, and we would get like, there was no Facebook or social media. So like Jason would be working at like Borders Books and Music and be like, dude, Victory Records called Borders today. And they like asked for me on the intercom because they want to fucking like talk about a record deal. So we had like record deals being thrown at us from Victory, Drive Through, Revelation, Eulogy. I'm definitely forgetting. I think Vagrant was interested at some point. But there was a lot. And then there was smaller ones. But we definitely had like labels that just sort of came out of nowhere once that shit sort of hit the fan. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, everybody was going to Long Island like it was like Seattle after grunge, and which was really and New Jersey as well, you know, and obviously My Chemical Romance became part of that whole second wave as well. But you know,
Right. Yeah.
it's super interesting. Like you guys, you guys were not a band that could have been on a major label, as far as I was concerned. Like
Why not?
musically, it was definitely maybe you and Tommy were such a solid thing, you know. but like musically, it would it could have gotten signed, but it probably would have been like one of those lost records that somebody would have discovered in 10
I would
years
say
and be like,
so.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it definitely would have been like a soft release. I don't know. It call me crazy, but it didn't seem to me like it was part of the culture at the time, but it didn't seem like it was something that could be mainstream, you know, sellable.
definitely, definitely. I mean, the funny story about that is that when we had a phone call with Drive Through Records, which was a subsidiary of MCA, they actually wanted us to. We did a showcase, and they decided within 24 hours that they wanted to sign us, but they wanted us to re-record a full length that we had already put out on our own 2 years prior. Go into the studio with Mark Trombino, who at that point had done like the Starting Line and Jimmy World, and they felt that with the right guidance, we could have taken a record that we already put out and rearranged the songs to have more hooks and put more chords. So
there's no way Jason would have done that, right? There's no way.
It would no, exactly. And we, I remember we were all on speaker talking to them about it, and they were like, "We'll get you in the studio with Mark Trombino. We'll get you on the Warped Tour coming up. We'll get you a bus, like the whole thing." And but they're like, "We want you to re-release that record where you are and where you want to be with a different front cover because it was goofy and with a producer that could help make the songs better."
I love that cover.
So that was the discussion that we had.
That cover's great. What the fuck? That's stupid.
Yeah,
that's like a classic emo. That's like a classic emo cover for that time. It is.
We made it into AP's classic emo covers last year.
It should be. Yeah, it should be. Dude, yeah, and see, they were fucking wrong, so fuck them.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, the future could be different. We wouldn't have lasted, and we wouldn't have been a good mainstream band. So we went with Revelation. That's where we went.
Right,
and that was a better decision.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Like, how do you feel about Revelation? I mean, it's I know there's lots of people over the years who have mixed feelings about Revelation. I'm sure you don't because you played all the, you know, anniversary shows and all that shit, but you know.
Long story short, we were not an easy band to work with. Jason was an amazing dude, but we were young. We played shows, and we would piss off promoters because we would say shit on stage that was offensive to the other bands or to the other, you know.
I've never done that. I know, it's cool.
So, you know, if I was to wrap up what it was like to be a Revelation, I would say they did a really good job, and I have to give a shout out to Garrison for getting us on the label, who are also a great band. But we went to Europe. We played amazing festivals for thousands of people. We did all the things that we never did before. So they did their work and their due diligence, and we fucked it up. So I would take the blame for that. But it was a cool experience, and I love Revelation because I grew up, you know, with those records with the star on it. So to have my record with the Revelation star is a really big deal to me, you know.
That's cool. Yeah, Joe just gave you a wave, by the way. Yeah. I totally get. I only put out one record, the split with Game Face on Revelation. And it's the only royalty check I've ever received. So,
I still get $3, and I get the $3 every quarter.
Dope.
The split. You know?
Sick, man. Well, maybe you'll get a little resurgence now. You know, like this big interview. This will be like big bucks. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. The documentary will fucking do it. And I know you you guys just reissued stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the interesting thing is we actually, there has been a resurgence because we just sold out of our first pressing of Where You Are and Where You Want to Be. And now we're on our second pressing. And as of yesterday, we sold out of the clear vinyl. So now we're, if you go to Dead Broke Records, which is the guys from Iron Chic.
Yeah, awesome people. Yay.
Yes, yeah, we have old T-shirts repressed, and I think we have like a couple hundred records left. So people, you know, it's a shame because we can't play, but there seems to be kids that still buy our records.
I mean, that's cool. Whatever, you know. I'm sure maybe one day you could find somebody who could try and do Jason stuff, but I doubt you would want to. So it'd be kind of weird. But
the last thing we did was at St. Vitus. So
Yeah, I remember that show
Yeah.
very well, and I remember, like On the Mind of Princes, and I think I gave my interview for your documentary where you guys were really the band that gave the second wave resurgence for Mind Over Matter, just by talking about us, and it kind of led to Taking Back Sunday, and bands like Taking Back Sunday, somewhat brand new, not really, but like Glassjaw, definitely, of course. They're probably the most adamant about it, but like, just like talking about Mind Over Matter, and like I remember, I remember picking up a copy of AP, and they had the top 10 Long Island hardcore records of all time in the back, and but like they had an interview with TBS, an interview with Brand New. I think they had an interview with Glassjaw, and each one of them had told some sort of story about Matter of Matter. And like all I could think about was like, I'm not sure that would have happened if On the Mind of Princes hadn't brought it back in like this sort of cool way. And so,
Yeah.
I thank you forever for that, because it made me be able to do like 10 more reunion shows and for various other things. But anyway,
Mind Over Matter was Mind Over Matter was the only Long Island hardcore band that all four of us liked. That we like that we agreed on.
yeah, and it's funny at that Vitus show, Jason talked to me about that, and I was like, that's awesome, man. Like that's so weird, but cool. It's like whatever. Like it's always weird for us, but like like I understand. Like you saw John LaFata play drums, and you were like, fuck, man, and I can totally hear that. Like that completely makes sense.
Well, not to get off on a total tangent, but I think the reason we liked Mind Over Matter a lot was because Auto Manipulation reminded us of Godflesh, and all four of us. Godflesh was a band that all four of us liked also, and there was a little bit of that in there. So
there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
I was trying my best, man. So On the Mind of Princes is done. I don't know if you want to tell any stories about the breakup, or we can just move on to Gracer, or like
Well, I'll make it quick. I mean, we took it as far as we could go. Every band that we played with went mainstream, and there was really no place for us. We didn't really know where to go anymore from there. And I don't think we were interested in playing screamo music at that point with whatever it was turning into. And
yeah. Here's I'm gonna interrupt you for a sec, because I know that conundrum. You weren't screamo enough for screamo, but you weren't mainstream enough for mainstream. So you had your own thing too much, and you just kind of went, I can't keep up with this shit. So, right?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. That was our whole MO. Is like we played shows with hardcore. We play shows with like Latterman, Most Precious Blood, Walls of Jericho, Movie Life. I mean, we just didn't fit in anywhere. And there was always like a thing where we were weird. We were too weird for the time. I guess we were ahead of our time. But and I'm not trying to pat ourselves in the back, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah, all those bands opened up for us. Like Coheed opened up for us. Brand New, Take Back Sunday. I mean, but I'm cool. I'm really happy that the band existed at the time that it did, and that we were part of something that seems to be kind of heralded, and I'm sure you can relate to that. So, feels weird saying that, but I'm 39 now. You know what I mean?
In a very small way. So in a very small way, but you were very huge in a very small way.
Yeah.
But it's cool. In all honesty, it's cool. It's cool for anybody to pay attention, because where it comes from is like, you come from nothing. It's like building a company from nothing, and like you do something that you're proud of, and it's cool. And sometimes it makes money, and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know. I feel like after this COVID bullshit, all this stuff is kind of going to be so different. So, let's treasure the memories we have. All right,
Absolutely.
moving on, because I want to get to Primitive Weapons, but so next step is Gracer. How did all that go down?
So great. I went. Basically, I wanted to do something more melodic, maybe more accessible. I don't want to say that I was trying to sell out, because I liked the band, but I saw the potential for commercial success with what was happening around me. And I was getting into bands like Death Cab for Cutie. I really liked a lot of early Jimmy Eat World stuff. I mean, this is the early to mid 2000s. And I met this kid, Ryan, who I think, You know, you'll appreciate. He was a huge Genesis fan, and he loved Phil Collins, but he also really liked Sunny Day Real Estate and Jimmy Eat World. So we got together, we wrote some stuff, and Revelation signed us, which was amazing. But it only lasted so long, and that's when they kept going. It's really weird. There's actually an IFC episode where for some reason they did an episode on Gracer. They were doing like stuff on independent bands trying to make it. So there's something out there if you look on YouTube about Gracer. But I really wanted to play drums for a living, so I left and I fucking tried out for every band.
Right. So let's talk about that. You tried out for Coheed, right? You tried out for who else?
Glassjaw. Twice.
Glassjaw.
Rah Rah Riot, who ended up getting huge. Who did I there was a point when I played with Brand New when Brian Lane wanted to be the bass player. Who else did I try out for? I'm sorry, I played in the band Criteria, who were on Saddle Creek. I did an entire tour with them, and then they broke up. So that right at that time that I was trying out for bands, I got that gig, and we went on tour with the Smoking Popes, and I went out to Omaha. So I was really trying to find a band. I was trying to find a band no matter what city they were in, but it just wasn't happening. After Criteria broke up, I almost tried out for Appleseed Cast, and I was willing to go move there. I literally was like, I'll do whatever I need to do to be a full-time drummer, and it just was fucking backfiring on me. But who did I fill in for? Super Touch, obviously Beyond, which I'm saying obviously because you know that, but there's a big long Shai Hulud. It's another band that I was in for a little bit. So
yeah, that was all when Primitive was together. Yeah, I remember all that stuff.
That was later on, but that was the beginning of me kind of just like bouncing around in bands, you know?
That's cool. We don't really have to get too far into when we started Primitive because, I don't know how many people even give a shit, but like it was, I remember from the first rehearsal, I was like, yeah, like this is going to work. Just because like, I think me and you might have even played alone. And I was just like writing whatever I wrote, you wrote the perfect fucking drum beat too. I was like, yes, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like fucking whatever noise bullshit I was fucking throwing out there. I feel like we had a lot of fun.
Yes.
I won't get into the nuances of it, but you can talk about Primitive Weapons if you want.
I get actually really. I think I could tell a story about Primitive Weapons that kind of ties into St. Vitus, and I'm sure you'll add to it. But when I moved to Brooklyn from Long Island, which a lot of us did, I was leaving the hardcore scene that was starting to become very samey, and I still love hardcore. But there was an era of the Long Island hardcore scene that you and I came from that was kind of coming to a close. And the music that was starting to come afterwards was very young and just something I couldn't relate to anymore. There was a lot of like going back to basics, youth crew style, kind of like metalcore stuff. So when I went to Brooklyn, I met different types of artists, and I played in prog bands. I played in a prog band called Villa Vina.
I remember that band. Yeah.
We played with Godfire's Man a lot. But after a while, so the prog band, I think, had an element of that sort of post-punk hipster thing that was happening in the early 2000s in Brooklyn that seemed fun and cool and different. But I really missed right when you and I, and David Castillo told us that he had this idea. I started to get sick of these bands with skinny ties and fucking these guys that looked so kind of like, they looked like just so Wonder Bread. I don't know if that's racist to say, but
no, it's not. I mean, like I wanted to play in basements. I remember there was one squat we played early on, that Party City in Bushwick. Mm-hmm. That was I love that show. That was so much fun. It was just like, with Inca Dagger, right, with Jeff Rickley singing. And it was like fucking, that was so killer. Like I love those shitty shows back then in the city. I didn't love it so much on our last tour, but yeah.
No, of course. I mean, we did some really good shit, but I think that the idea of wanting to be in Primitive Weapons and do something, which I could be wrong. I feel like maybe you guys were thinking the same thing, and that this kind of led to Saint Vitus also, was that like I went back to my roots, which as I mentioned, was aggressive music, and they were scary looking dudes. I would watch videos of like fucking Melvins or Corrosion and Conformity and just be like, wow, those are fucking badass looking motherfuckers. And I missed that because it became pretty boy shit. Between the screamo bands and the emo bands and the fucking post-punk bands, it was all pretty boy bands. And it was so unthreatening. And the reason why I got into music was because people tried to beat me up every fucking day at school, and I just needed aggressive music. So I wanted to revisit aggressive music again, and it seems like you guys wanted to do the same thing. So
yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we did. I mean,
really
I was coming off Gay for Johnny Depp, and so I was sort of still in the sort of aggressive world for that style, but like I wasn't playing guitar in that band, so I was like really like sort of like itching to like just get like some of those fucking noisy, crazy riffs out. And yeah, you were just the perfect drummer, and Eric was the perfect bass player, and Dave was the perfect singer, and it was like fucking just worked really, really well. We did a lot of cool shit. I mean, again, you can talk about it at will. I mean, you missed out on half of the Glassjaw Quicksand tour,
look,
but you did half of it with
That's
Spotlight.
because my other on it. Well, look, if we want to sum up Primitive Weapons in a nutshell, the band was a heavier band, which was a nice departure from what I was doing, because I felt that, and you might have said this to me too, but like I felt more angry at that point in my life than I had been in so long. I was getting more angry as I was getting older for some reason, and I'm actually, even though I seem happy, I'm still angry. There's just like, I have a lot of shit that I feel like you can't really get off your chest if you're playing light music, and if it's too technical, you're not really able to sort of get into that zone. A lot of what I put out when I play is anger. Even if I'm playing a pretty song, it's anger. I'm very angry when I'm playing. But
I can see that in your facial expressions. I mean, Spotlights too. So we can talk about Spotlights now. I mean, like, Primitive put out what was one EP, 3 albums. It took us forever because we were also busy doing other shit. We did a bunch of cool tours. We had a lot of fun together. We had a lot of non-fun. You quit for a while. You came back. And that was, like it just, we were a bit of a drama case, but I feel like you were a bit of a drama case as well at the time.
I was struggling with sobriety and stuff.
Yeah. And it was like, that was definitely like a driving factor, because like, obviously the rest of us didn't give a fuck about sobriety, but like I appreciate your sobriety because I fucking adore you now. I adored you before, but I especially love you now. I feel like the real Chris Enriquez has come through door 3, and and he fucking rules.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, it means a lot to me that you played on my solo stuff too. Like, you pushed me to do that, and that was like fucking just like I can't thank you enough for that, because I would have never done it. I would have never recorded it had you not been like, you asshole, just fucking do it. Like,
well, music means so much to me, to the point where if I have friends or know people that are doing cool shit, whether it's like big or not big, it's like a huge disservice to know that somebody has. I feel that way about a lot of stuff. I mean, I'll shout out a band like Som Nuri from Brooklyn is my favorite metal band in Brooklyn right now, and they're not that big, and I want to help them. And so that's part of my personality, and that's part of my personality back when I booked Movie Life and Taking Back Sunday and Brand New. I wasn't trying to be cool. I saw people that were doing cool shit, and that's why I do Age of Quarantine and why I do what I do at Revolver. I just want people to put out good shit, and it has a rippling effect on whether it's the underground culture in New York or in the greater spectrum, which we know people who've taken it further. So it's such a waste if somebody has talent and they don't do anything about it. You know what I mean?
No, I hear that. And, and well, you've known plenty of people with substance abuse problems, and like people who just don't have a lot of drive or like shit like that. It's like, especially right now with all this stuff going on, like it's very difficult to find inspiration behind doing anything. It's like you have to be so self-motivated. It's like you even more self-motivated than just starting a stupid hardcore band when you're a kid, which is
Right.
like totally fucking difficult to be motivated to do. So that being said, I do want to talk about spotlights, but with the time we have, because well, actually, let's just talk about spotlights. So those guys are amazing people,
Yeah.
incredible like musicians, engineers. I know that you love playing with them because it's probably so much easier than dealing with us assholes.
No,
I
it's
know.
not different.
Sarah and Mario are fucking so nice, and like what? So what's your deal with that? Like you guys just like keep recording and stuff, and like are you just like?
It's the weirdest band in terms of how unconventional everything is because we don't. So I joined later. They put out an EP while I was a
Right, well,
drummer.
Mario played on, right?
Yeah, Mario played drums on most of the records, and then we basically did a thing where I joined on a tour because their drummer couldn't finish the tour, which happened to be a Deftones tour with the Refused.
Oh, right.
That was a huge, that was a crazy, huge situation. And so when I did that, I became their touring drummer for about 2 years before I ended up playing on anything. And the reason why I was going to say it's weird is we don't jam in a room. It's very much a thing where here's the full length, it's finished, check it out and learn the parts. There's programmed drums on it, and then I show up. The first time I ever played any Spotlight songs were when I recorded them. I never even played it with them or in a studio by myself. I just would show up and have Mario. It would just be me and Mario, and with click track and the music, and I'm not even playing with anybody. So the way the band operates is very different.
Well, what's honestly okay on another side of like because I always look at you as being a technical drummer, very technical drummer. Sometimes too technical, where you do things that you're just trying to do live, and you're just like, dude, just stop, like just fucking play it straight. But like fucking you, but I mean, like amazing, incredible. Like you make my riffs sound fucking great. But like the thing about that's really interesting is that Mario wants you to play on it because of the tone of your drums. And we could do an entire hour about this because me and you have had so many conversations about drums and drummers, and like the way someone hits the drums is so personal. It's such a personal instrument. It's like an incredibly personal thing. And so for him to want, he could just play it himself or just use programmed drums that would have the parts, but he wants your sound. He wants your feel. That's fucking cool. That's really cool.
The way that you put that is beautiful because it just made me want to go play drums right now. It's and it's right. It's an expression. I mean, every instrument is, but I think drums a lot too because you listen to a lot of prog music, and it is very personal because it's in not to no pun intended, primitive form of expression to fucking
no, absolutely.
Caveman's to fucking hit shit all the time. So yeah, it's very personal. It's a religious, therapeutic, personal experience to play drums. But yeah, I mean, Spotlights is a very interesting band because I trust, as much as I like jamming, there's something to be said about trusting a songwriter and being like, you write really good stuff. I know it's going to be good, and I know I'm going to compliment it. I'm going to play on it, and that's cool. I don't need to tell you that a different guitar part should happen. That's right. It's not my place, It's like fucking Jimmy Chamberlain is not. I don't think Jimmy Chamberlain is telling Billy Corgan that he should maybe move his hand up the neck to a different chord progression. Maybe he is, but I'm going to guess that he's not. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it.
You've tried every once in a while with me, but I agree.
Well, we jam. You and I jam, except for your solo stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a different experience, and like I again, like you're a great songwriting drummer. You're somebody who can contribute in so many different ways to a song not only by writing a drum riff, but also being like, hey man, like, you know, like, why don't we do this twice? And like a lot of the stuff in the early Primitive Weapons shit. I mean, later on, I was starting to write more shit on the computer, and I would come in with more set stuff. But like early on, like you added so much to all of that shit, and it was like, yeah, cool, man. Like you and Eric would just go off and do something cool. It's like, all right, guys, bye. Like, okay, rhythm section, that's your job. Go do something cool.
Oh, I just wanted to answer Juan Borges. Mario played drums on the last EP because of the pandemic, but that's me on the full length Love and Decay, and then I just did a Jawbox cover, and we did a collaboration with Alan Epley from Life and Time. So I'm on a couple singles and covers and one full length. But yeah, hope that answers your question.
Okay, so let's talk about old school Long Island hardcore.
Let's talk about it.
All right, so first show.
My first show was a show that you played. It was 1994, I want to say. You could correct me. It might have been 95. But it was Avail, Garden Variety, Bad Trip, which was, you were in that band at the time, and Warped Weeble Wobbles at the PWAC.
Yes.
That was my first Long Island hardcore show. But my first, never mind. We're talking Long Island hardcore. Yeah. That was a life-changing moment because every band was so different, and Bad Trip had kind of a quicksand feel to it at that point in your guys' career. Garden Variety was leaning more towards this kind of like Fugazi world, and you know, from what I was looking at. And then to see Avail, who were like, you know, they're like a punk rock band, that really shaped how the trajectory was for how I proceed. You know, what would have it been like if I saw Neglect and Tension? I don't know. I might not have.
Did you ever see Neglect?
No, I missed Neglect, but the earliest hardcore band that I saw was Mind Over Matter.
I mean, but at that point, we were probably barely hardcore. I mean, like we were, you know, on a different fucking, you know, plane, a different trajectory. But I mean, so, you know, like we had a bass player who played different bass lines than the guitar part, which is like, you know, you're immediately not hardcore if you do that.
I should comment though on it's, you know, what you'll appreciate, which is that when I got into Mind Over Matter and I got into Long Island hardcore bands, I was buying records from distros before I'd seen them. So I bought the first Mind Over Matter records when it's with Soldier Unknown. And all that, which was more like, you know, it was more hardcore. So yeah, that was cool.
Scott wrote No Soldier Unknown. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about probably, I'm going to guess, the other band that was the biggest influence, Silent Majority. When did you finally see Silent Majority or Glassjaw? Like, I don't know which one, because I know they both were big bands for you.
Yeah. So, Glassjaw, I saw some of their first shows. I mean, when I saw Glassjaw at the PWAC, Beck was on drums. I think Brian Meehan was filling in on guitar, and it was Chris Baldwin. And they opened up with Blind by Korn. So I'm seeing them when they're doing covering songs. They're doing cover songs.
I don't remember that one, but okay. Wow.
I think it's on YouTube. And then they played their demo. So that was when I first saw Glassjaw. So whenever they put out a demo, which was probably 95 or 9, I think it was 95. And then I saw Silent Majority when they had a demo with Bind, Expectations.
The Pines.
I saw all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw all those bands at the PWAC, and at some fucking place that I'm sure you played shows at, like some bar. I feel like I saw like Dahlia Seed there, and like fucking a lot of bands around that.
Was
time.
it in Carol's? Was it in Island Park? Was it Carol's place?
No, it was in Suffolk County, kind of like South Shore. South Shore, Suffolk County. But anyway, the scene was diverse, so I liked that it was like, you know, you go see Silent Majority and Glassjaw, and you might see Hell No, or you might see Last Crime, or like Millhouse, or Sleeposaurus. So that was a huge thing for me, you know.
What was like? So it wasn't like it was that easy to find. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, I don't know how old you were. You were probably like what, 16, 15, 16?
Probably. Probably 15,
Like
16.
how did you find it? Like I know how I found it, but I found it through metal. But how did you find it?
I'll tell you in a sec. I just want to answer Pinata 89. My favorite Spotlight song to play live is the obvious answer is Under the Earth because it's a drum solo. But probably I really like playing Xerox right now. That's my favorite
Such
song
a ham.
to play live.
Got to answer the fucking question.
But
let's stick to it. Stick to it. Look at me. Look at my eyes. Stick in my eyes.
So, a guy by the name of Conrad Mata, he had an older brother named Rene Mata, Rene Mata worked at Limelight and went to shows, and he lived in Valley Stream, and he went to Slip Disc a lot. So and he was in a band with Richie from Sick of It All. So when I met Conrad in 1993, I went to his house, and Rene would bring home Burn, Orange 9mm, Quicksand, and they had everything. And when I would go to their house, it was like a fucking record store with free records. I would leave with mixtapes. It would be everything from Sam I Am to fucking Unwound, and Gorilla Biscuits would be on the same mixtape.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So that's
how I found
treasure trove. That's incredible.
Everything. I mean, the entire house had flyers in it that were unreal. I mean, I could tell you, like, have flyers of shows that you wouldn't believe happened. It would be like Garden Variety, Shelter, Everclear, CBGBs.
Oh, yeah.
On the wall. One flyer. Shit like that. So that's how I figured it out. And then Conrad took me to shows, and so did this guy named, you'll appreciate this. He worked with General George from Clockwise, and he was from Manhasset. His favorite band was Sam I Am. So he took me to see Clockwise, and was there a venue called the Pipeline?
Yes.
A Pipeline?
In Northport.
What I was talking about.
In Northport, yeah.
Yes. So it took me to see Silent Majority and Clockwise and all that stuff. That was through indirectly through General George because of this guy that worked with them. So that's how I found Long Island Hardcore.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I always love to hear origin stories and all this stuff, because it's just like, it was such an interesting time. And like, I always wondered how anybody found it, because we all felt like we were so solitary and like in the middle of nowhere, and nobody made any sense. And then like, like, it's so awesome that like bands would come out of that with people I'd ever even met, because I felt like I knew everybody.
Right.
It's so weird.
It was also like, once we saw that show at PWAC, we showed up to every fucking show because we would get flyers. And so half the bands that we saw and got into, we weren't going to see them. When I saw Lifetime, I wasn't going to see Lifetime. I was just going to the PWAC, and then Lifetime happened to be playing,
right.
Which I'm sure you can relate to also. So like half the bands that I discovered was because I just went there to see bands. There was no band I was going to see. I didn't know who the fuck Millhouse was when I went to see Millhouse. I just showed up.
I'm sorry.
There was bands playing. You know what I mean?
No, I totally hear you. Like, it was the same thing with Sundance. Like, we would go and just go to see a thrash band or whatever, and then like a hardcore band would open and be like, oh, this is cool, Sick of It All or Leeway, or
right.
All these other bands that you're just kind of like, I don't know, do I like this, do I not like this? And I loved it, for about 3 months, and then I was like, I want to go listen to my Yes records, or King Diamond or something that was more up my alley. But yeah, it's just great to hear those stories and like know that, like, I'm sure there's a billion other kids who saw your band and had the same situation, the same feeling. And it's like, that's at least you're touching a couple of people, not, touching, of course, because it's COVID and, we don't want to get weird, but it's cool, So we have 53 seconds left, Chris. I got to be pro. You want to say anything?
Well,
99th episode.
Well, first of all, I just want to give a plug. I started a hardcore band called Total Meltdown, and we have some stuff online on Spotify, and it's kind of my ode to old school hardcore, because that meant a lot to me. But thanks, dude. And episode 100, Vinny Stigma, Agnostic Front, tomorrow night. It's going to be fun.
Fucking Stigma. Love you, brother.
I love you.
This is super fun. Awesome.
Okay. Don't
Cheers, bro.
forget to don't forget to
I'll
save
save
the
it. Fuck
episode.
you. I'll fucking save it. Fuck.